And once again, we are live to talk about Giants free agency. And before we get into anything, Donald, we were very critical yesterday of Joe Shane. And within the past, I would say close to 24 hours, he's turned it around on us. And two good signings, very good signings on the defensive side of the ball, especially the big splash, which we'll get into. We also have Luca joining us to give his outside thoughts and some other stuff as per usual. But if you haven't already, hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when the live stream pops or drops. Appreciate you coming back. Also, be sure to vote on the poll whether you approve or disapprove of Joe Shane's day 2 free agent exhibition, if you will. But I'm actually going to change things up a little bit. I will go with Luca to start because he did not join us yesterday. So, Luca, your first thoughts, maybe if you want to include a little Jets, but also Giants as well.
Of course. What's up to everybody? What's up to Donald? Big free agency for the Giants this far. I think they are second in most spending. I looked up just right behind the Patriots. Obviously, Paulson and Debo, bringing back Darius Slayton, Jevon Holland today, early this morning. Roy Robertson Harris, depth defensive lineman. I think they've won free agency so far. Obviously, the results, we'll wait on till game time, obviously. And also as well, besides the quarterback position, this team is I'm going to say a bit desperate because it's Joe Shane and Brian Dable hanging on by a thread in terms of their job security. So they're going to have to spend. They're going to have to use as much assets as possible without dumping the next regime, dumping shit on the next regime. But so far, you like what you see. But obviously, you can hold into perspective certain things, obviously wait till the results come in September. But also, I'm just going to bring this up, and we'll obviously get into the whole Jevon Holland thing. A lot of people, not just in the Giants circle, I would say mostly not even in the Giants circle, like, okay, you signed Jevon Holland, $15 million AAV when you could have signed Xavier McKinney the year before. Just going to put that out there. They let Xavier McKinney walk last year. They signed Jevon Holland this year for similar AAV. What's the thoughts on that, obviously? Just as a curious question. I'm not getting critical.
Yeah.
Just a question.
I'll let Donald go with his first thoughts, and then we'll break into it, of course.
Joe Shane, I was not familiar with your game. Where did that come from? Boom. Like an A+ day 2 out of nowhere, man. I'm excited. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm actually kind of excited about this. This team's starting to low-key have a good defense. I wasn't expecting that to happen after day 2. I love Holland. We were talking about Holland yesterday, and I was like, he's going to be far too expensive. We're not going to be fishing. We're not going to be fishing in those waters. Wow, we just landed him first thing in the morning. Crazy. Golston, love the Golston pickup. He's someone that can play inside and outside line. I actually kind of liked him in the Cowboys, so that's a hell of a pickup too. Where did that come from? So, 2 winning moves right there. And it looks like we're closing the gap on Aaron Rodgers. And I'm low-key kind of want Aaron Rodgers to be a big blue because he's the numbers that he put up for the Jets last year would be the best season the Giants would have at quarterback since 2015. 3,900 yards. That would be the most yards that quarterbacks thrown for the Giants since 2015. So whatever you all are thinking about Aaron Rodgers and his and the stuff that he brings with him, he's still a hell of a quarterback, so I would do that, man. I would do it. I'm starting to feel low-key pumped about things. Things are starting to come together, and New York fans really need something to celebrate. So let's go. Well, apart from Met fans are celebrating. They're fucking delighted. But New York Giant and Yankee fans need something to be smiling about. So,
yeah. As far as McKinney goes, the Giants also got a 3rd-round comp pick. I don't know, Donald, if you heard that one.
Loved it. Number 99. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's number 99 overall. They get a 3rd-round comp pick. I think and it's a strange thing to say, but I'll say it. My issue with the McKinney thing is more of like not trading him, but you do get the 3rd-round comp pick. So I guess that, in a way does serve as a return. And of course, I'm not like totally defending it because McKinney balled out with the Packers and we got split. We got nothing obviously on defense. In return, Tyler Nubin wasn't great. Jason Pinnock was decent. Dane Belton didn't see much playing time. But as Donald said, when I walked out, I literally finished my shift, punched in my numbers, and then I walk out and I see on in the Twitter group chat the Giants have splashed and they've signed Jevon Holland. I'm like, wait, hold on, let me make sure that I'm not like too tired to read this. I'm like, oh yeah, shit, Rap Sheet just tweeted it. I think it's very good value. I got to check the safety market in a minute. I was expecting him to maybe like get the McKinney numbers, and all that sort of stuff. I think there's a video out there of what he wants to see in a team he goes to in free agency.
And while you do that, my thoughts on Luca's question, I would say, hey, at least Joe Shane's learning from his mistakes. Because obviously he made a mistake last year because he didn't quite value the safety market as high as probably he should have. And if at least instead of being stubborn about it, he amended his ways and went and got one who's just as good as McKinney, if not better in some ways. So, well, maybe last year aside, that was crazy. McKinney had one of the best seasons ever. But in general, I think they're fairly comparable careers until like last year. McKinney went crazy. But I think it was a really good pickup. And I think Joe Shane, at least he kind of learned from his mistakes last year and then kind of put proper money into the safety market. Because I know that in the past, it's kind of like a unwritten rule not to put too much money into the safety position. But I think the safety position is now kind of gone in a bit of a surge lately. McKinney's part of it, and people are like, shit, we should maybe invest in that a little bit. So I think that's probably what that comes down to. He's obviously still doesn't invest in running backs yet, but maybe he will in the draft. I hope he will. But no, I'm happy about it, man. I think Holland's a really great pickup.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to look for that video in a little bit, but here's the way the safety market kind of stacks up right now. Antoine Winfield is the highest paid safety in the NFL at $21 million a year. Then you got Derwin James at 19. You have Minkah Fitzpatrick at 18. You have Budda Baker at 18. You have Trayvon Merrick, who I don't think he's better than Jevon Holland, Trayvon Merrick. $17 million a year. Then you have McKinney at $16 million. And then $16 million again at Jesse Bates. And then Jevon Holland. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th highest paid safety in the NFL.
I think we kind of got a steal.
It is. I would agree with that. And I was looking at, and the Steelers are signing Kenneth Gainwell. Okay. All right. So interesting. I'm also, for anyone that didn't hear, Jason Pinnock is a 49er on a 1-year contract. So there's a little bit of that. But what I really like about Jevon Holland, and I didn't really, as I said, I didn't do like too much research into him pre-free agency because I never just expected the Giants to sign him.
No.
And I'm like, okay, well, I know he's obviously athletic. He can do a couple of different things. I know PFF grades him really well against the run, which is a plus. He can blitz, which is a plus. But breakdown here by safety usage, and obviously defensive coordinators are different. I don't remember who the defensive coordinator I want to say it was Anthony Weaver last year for the Dolphins. I'm going to say it was. Right. And then obviously the year before you had Vic Fangio, and then the guy before him that was good. I think his name was Josh Boyer or something, some shit like that. Anyway, 2024, where he lined up. Well, 54% of the snaps were played deep. The Giants need a center field safety, which fits right in the mold. He played in the box 32% of the snaps, taking Pinnock's role. And he lined up in the slot 17% of the snaps. So whenever, I guess, Drew Phillips needs a break or the Giants can't find somebody to cover a tight end or a running back in the slot or maybe even a receiver, Jevon Holland's there. 2023, 51% deep, box 31% and 18% in the nickel. I'm not going to go into 2022 because that's 3 years ago, and it was a different defensive coordinator. Thank you, Armin. So yeah, I kind of knew I was right. Yeah, what's up to Armin, Jacob, Barbara, everyone else who's coming in? Hit the like button, comment, subscribe. I just think overall, and I'll pass it to Donald, and of course Luca can comment. He provides more. And again, I don't know what Pinnock's contract is. Pinnock was limited in his ceiling. Like he was a sixth round corner by the Jets turned into a safety, and it was good for the time being for 2 years. And Joe Shane definitely had like a master pickup right there off the waiver wire.
Yeah.
I'm not discrediting that, but if you could get better leadership in the secondary with Jevon Holland, he was one of the guys that was pissed off at the way Vic Fangio used him. So I would like to think that if Shane Bowen decides to be a ass clown and not use him correctly, he will do the same thing. But I mean, as I said, as we said, I think it's a steal. As veteran leadership, he's definitely, I don't think he's got a Kyle Hamilton ceiling, but he's probably within the, I would say top 10 to 20 range of safeties across the league. But overall, I think the Giants got a steal. And I'll read other stats in a minute, but I want to give Donald and Lucas some thoughts to
Yeah,
push
I'd
out.
say top 10. I'd definitely say top 10 for him. I'm starting to like how the secondary's starting to look. Drew Phillips in the slot, and then you got Banks, who, I don't think he's a great fit for Bowen, but I think he'd be better as a second corner as opposed to a first. And you got Paulson Debo, which was a great signing yesterday. So, day one, you get a great signing. Day two, you get a great signing. That secondary is coming together. And the D-line got a bit of a boost as well, because we're not really talked about Golston. I think he's a sneaky little acquisition there. And, it's all kind of, there's a bit of pressure now on Kayvon to step up. But also on the outside, you got Burns. So the D-line is starting to come together. I quite like Okereke. I think he's okay. I think he's a pretty solid linebacker. So that defense is starting to look pretty good. It's a shame we don't have a better defensive coordinator for this defense. Could you imagine what Wink Martindale would do with this defense?
Oh, my God. The way he would use Jevon Holland and the way a Debo would play, my Lord.
Disgusting. I'll tell you what, man, I kind of feel bad for Niner fans. You lose Hufanga and you bring in Pinnock. That's a
downgrade.
They've
lost a ton of players. But
their entire roster, all for Purdy. But that's maybe we can bring that up later, because that is really fascinating what they're doing over there. I'm not even understanding what the Chiefs are doing. So there's quite a lot of things to talk about. Shout out to the Broncos, though. I think they're having a freaking ridiculously good offseason so far, in my opinion. I think they're doing pretty good. But yeah, back to the G-men. Loving what's coming together in this defense, and it's now Aaron Rodgers' watch. And I wonder when we're going to find out.
Yeah. 49ers window is closed. What's up to Tim? The Giants getting closer. We'll definitely talk about the quarterback rumors. Mitch, who's a Eagles fan, says thank you for Saquon Barkley. Yes, of course. Not a great moment in Giants history, recent history for sure. I have a point to bring up, but I do want to give Luca any thoughts he has to bounce off of us.
Alex brought up a great point about Holland. He's energetic. He's a leader. He's like a chess piece. Alex broke down all the different alignments in terms of positions, nickel, safety, all that. Alex, did you mention his PFF grade over the past couple of years in coverage?
In coverage, no. I was going to mention his
I will
statistical
do that.
stuff, but if you want to go ahead.
91.3 coverage grade, fifth among safeties since 2021.
Woo!
So some people say he actually had a down year last year, Holland, but I'd say he was still one of the best on the market. I personally, as a Jet fan, we obviously went out and got Andre Cisco. I like Julian Blackmon as well, but I think this is a good fish to catch for the Giants because he came from the Dolphins. I had the fish thing there. But in terms of solidifying the defense, I think the Giants are pretty much there. Maybe like one more piece. I'm not sure if they really need one more piece but it's up to Shane Bowen now, because obviously you have Deontay Banks. You hope he makes a stride from a bad year last year when he was in a different system. Paulson Adebo is as good as a corner as you can get when he's healthy. Drew Phillips had a good year last year. Tyler Nubin, I think, will make strides with Holland next to him because a lot of Giants fans were saying, you guys can allude to this, they needed a center field type safety so
Facts.
Newman can play back or at least utilize Newman better. Linebackers obviously have Okereke and Mike McFadden. Defensive line is shaping up well. Golston, underrated signing. I didn't even know who that was, but the numbers read off pretty well as in terms of a pass rusher that's situational. So replacing the Ojulari role. But I'll just say this as a foreshadowing. I don't think you guys will like what I say when it comes to Aaron Rodgers.
Yes. Well, I mean, I of course have my own thoughts, but I'll say this, right? I will to bounce off Luca's point. I do think we need to draft a D tackle in the top 100. That is that must be done. I would like to really see what they do in terms of guard because they were supposed to pursue guard heavily. I'm very, very happy that they did not go after Will Fries because I feel like $17 million a year for a guard who only had 1 or 2 good years and is coming off of a season-ending injury. I feel like they kind of escaped the hole there. My point is this. I feel as though the Giants recognize that they're not that far off on offense because obviously they haven't spent much there. They got a swing tackle. They re-signed Darius Slayton. I think there's moments where I feel that they're not far off, and there's some moments where I feel they're far off. But, like, I think the Giants recognize now that, let's just say they sign a solid guard like a Reisner or whoever else is on the market. I think that if you get that piece, you bring in a veteran quarterback and a rookie. Again, I don't think you're far off from being at least an average NFL offense. We have to set our bar to average, not below average, not top 10. We got to set our bar to average here. Because you got Malik Neighbors. Obviously yesterday we weren't very happy with the Slayton signing because of the optics, but he is a solid wide receiver too. Wandale, obviously, he moves the chains. You're hoping that Theo Johnson comes back because he obviously had the season-ending injury on Thanksgiving. So, again, I don't think they're far off on offense, and it would really be prudent to help out that rookie quarterback. And defensively, and though it was really not the biggest issue last year, they are securing spots that may have been weak. Obviously, again, they signed the safety in Holland. They signed the corner in Adebo. I would really look to maybe get another linebacker, not in free agency, but in the draft. But it just opens so many holes for the Giants to do multiple things in the draft, go after the trenches, get successors. This is what you want to do if you want a sustained winner, right? I'm very happy again, like I said yesterday, very happy with the way the Giants have spent their money. Again, we had our little tick about the signings that were depth guys, but he didn't spend like a fucking drunken sailor.
No.
He hasn't spent like a drunken sailor. He made one splash move, and he's filling in pieces all across the team. So again, that restates my point that I'm pretty happy with the way things have been conducted so far. And then real quickly before anyone else gives their thoughts, as far as coverage, like legitimate statistics from Pro Football Reference, he has 5 interceptions in his career. He had 2 in 2021. I want to say, maybe I'm wrong, it might have been Xavier Howard, so I might erase that. But anyway, 2 interceptions his rookie year, 2 interceptions his second year, and his third year he had 1 interception. But 54.2 completion percentage allowed. Last year, 2 touchdowns allowed, no INTs, 89 passer rating, 321 yards. And then the year prior, 1 interception, 71.1 completion percentage, 287 yards, 2 touchdowns allowed, and 99.3 passer rating. But again, PFF also rates him very highly in terms of the coverage grade and all that stuff. Do you guys have any more thoughts on the Jevon Holland thing?
No, I do have that list that you were looking into in regards to what Jevon Holland is looking for in free agency. His list was detailed and experienced coaching, honest culture, men leading head coach, and a team that wants to win. So Joe Shane obviously really sold him on the team that wants to win. So I have to commend him for that. Honest culture, I can see that because if you look at how the Giants were ranked 21. One of the few things that were actually ranked really highly for the Giants was actually Brian Daboll and the locker room in general. So I guess Daboll and maybe Daboll helped swing it for Jevon Holland. As for your comments, I think that you're likely to see more of 2023 Jevon Holland than last year, because I think last year was a really tough spot for him. The Dolphins were a bit of a mess. They didn't have a quarterback for like over half a season, or even, to be honest, 3/4 of the season. They didn't have a quarterback, so there was there was a ton of pressure on that defense. So I can kind of see why maybe those ratings went up a tiny bit. So I think back to a slightly better situation. If we can get ourselves a quarterback, then I think we'll be okay with better defense. I think the Giants' defense will be slightly better than the Dolphins' defense last year, in my opinion. If they play to the back of their football cards. But yeah, no, I see it, man. I'm pretty optimistic about it, and I think you're right about Joe Shane. I think I was maybe being, without knowing the full picture. I think last night I was overly critical on the amount of money we put into the debt signings. But as you say, he wasn't spending like a drunken sailor, and he's allocated the funds correctly for two semi-star players. In fact, two star secondary players. So, yeah, there's no complaints at all. I think to give credit to Joe Shane, man. I mean, I've obviously shredded him on many of occasions, but I have to say he's had a very good start to free agency, and he's given a little bit more hope to this franchise than previously expected, I have to be honest.
Yeah. And I will say this, and Donald knows, and we're both like not big Shane Bowen fans, but I will say as well, there's three factors you have to put in to why the defense failed, other than maybe Shane Bowen's work. Number one, it's that the defense got severely injured at different points of the season. Dexter Lawrence went down.
Mm-hmm.
You had the injury to Kayvon. You had the injury to Aziz. You had just a couple of different things all across the board. You also had, and this is a criticism from the past of Joe Shane, is they got players from that were fit for Wink, but we're not fit for this system. Like Banks obviously was the poster boy of that. Bobby Okereke, he wasn't as flashy. Kayvon Thibodeau wasn't as productive. So there's that. It's those two things. And also the offense sucked. So, you know, in the Bengals game, when they're holding the league's top offense to like 10 points and Daniel Jones can't move the football for shit, how can you blame the defense there?
Facts.
So, if we're talking about a league average offense, not below average, not 31st or 32nd, if you get like a 19th, because I'm trying to think when the last time the Giants were supposedly a decent offense, you get like a 19th or a 16th rated offense, and then this defense goes to ball. And I'll say this, right? I know I've been critical of Shane Bowen, but after week one and after week two, I think they got a little fire under their ass because of the way things went with Jaden Daniels. But week three, they put and again, Deshaun Watson's no good quarterback, but it just showed that Shane Bowen didn't blitz in the past, and then the defense was sacking. They were blitzing. Now in the second half, against the Browns, I would have liked that to happen a little bit more, but nonetheless, he adjusted. Obviously, there are some minor intricacies that we could criticize, but I like to think there's some hope there. That's just me.
Wow, Armand, Joey Bosa agrees to win your deal with the Bills.
Oh boy, Luka, he's in your division now.
Wow, I thought he was going to go.
He's often hurt.
I thought he was going to go to the Niners.
That's what I thought.
Well,
another L for the Niners. This is great.
Yeah, they were supposed to stay. They cut Floyd, and now they have no pass rushers.
That's hilarious. Oh my god.
I can't. I really can't fathom that, to be completely.
That's called the after effects of the cap. You know, they're saving enough, trying to save up to pay Purdy. They cut Javon Hargrave. They cut Leonard Floyd. Obviously, they're not signing Joey Bosa. So, and Hufanga's gone. So I think that they're trying to
Juszczyk's gone as well.
Juszczyk, Debo Samuel got traded.
For Darius
Brandon
Ward.
Ayuk might get traded.
It's great.
All is well. All is not well with the 49ers.
Just to pay a very, very mediocre quarterback.
He's average. I completely agree.
He's very average.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to succeed, but that's me. Luca, you got any final thoughts on the defense?
No.
Okay. I do want to, before we get, and I know this is like backtracking and like going in different directions here. Before I get to Golston, because I know it's a minor topic, I do want to talk about the quarterback situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this: Donald knows it, and Luca knows it. I'm no big fan of Aaron Rodgers. And there's some situations I would say, okay, it's fine to have an Aaron Rodgers. And I'll definitely let Luca vent on his experience with Aaron Rodgers. But I'll say this: I do admire, to a certain extent, there's two sides to this. There's a negative and a positive. I do admire the Giants' patience with Aaron Rodgers, because that's what Ian Rappaport said not too long ago. I think he said it in the 6 o'clock hour. He goes, they're very, like, he was joking with Garofalo on air. And then he's like, well, the Giants are being very patient with Aaron Rodgers. And he's the one holding this one up. Like, Jones went to the Colts for $11 million. Russell Wilson's not going anywhere. I think Russell Wilson personally is seeing where Rodgers goes and then bouncing off of that. And then you'll start to see the Mariotas and the Wentz people and all those different backup quarterbacks kind of like fall into place. But as far as that goes, I admire their patience, but please don't get sold on Rodgers being your only option and then pivoting to Russell Wilson. Please don't do that, because this is what Rodgers does. You kind of saw that with the Stafford thing. So I'm just cautioning. I'm not, as I wanted to like leave it as a first thought for that. And then I'll go to Donald and then Luca, of course.
But it's quite clear, though, that there is a clear pecking order just around between the Giants and the Steelers. They both want Aaron Rodgers first priority, and then Russ second priority. And I'm a little surprised about that, because I didn't think there was that much of a difference between the two in terms of performance last year. But it is interesting, because obviously the Steelers really wanted Rodgers, but the Giants clearly want Rodgers, and I think it's a pretty definitive, clear they want Rodgers, and Russ is quite a distant backup, I think, because I've not really heard the Giants that invested in bringing in Russ. So I think they really want Rodgers. So that's why I'm actually gonna cede to Luca here, because you've experienced a year of Aaron Rodgers. You said that we're not gonna like what you got to say about it, and I'll just be interested about your comments and also what you think that he could add to the offense as well after your critique.
I have one word for Giants fans and Steelers fans. Now, it's funny because you guys are obviously the Giant fans. Sean is the big Steelers fan. The word is don't. Just my opinion. I'll explain everything. The Giants are in a similar situation with what the Jets were when they acquired Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, Jets got absolutely ransacked in trade. You guys are going to sign Aaron Rodgers or propose to sign Aaron Rodgers as a free agent. He's 41 years old. I think the real reason you bring in an Aaron Rodgers is if you believe you're a Super Bowl contender. I don't think the Giants are a Super Bowl contender. Can they be a playoff team? Absolutely. With the defense building up, you got to see what the offense is. Aaron Rodgers is not getting older. Obviously, what happens this year if Aaron Rodgers signs with the Giants and the Giants go like 7-10, and then Mara fires Shane and Dable, and the next regime doesn't want Aaron Rodgers. Also to factor in as well, Rodgers doesn't run a modern offense. He doesn't like play. He doesn't like play action. He doesn't like personnel moving around. He doesn't like pre-snap motion. It's pretty much not short passes, but I don't know how I would describe it, but it's just not a modern offense. It's not something you like to see. No RPOs, anything like that. It's pretty much 1 to 2 reads. The
Do you not think that would suit a Brian Dable offense? You don't think that there's
No,
any?
especially with your I was about to bring up the playmakers as well. Obviously, you're not getting Devontae Adams. Adams is a LA Ram. I'm surprised he went there before deciding, before waiting for Aaron Rodgers. That was my thing. Lazard, obviously, I don't think you guys will get him, which is interesting. I'm not sure if you're going to get any of the Aaron Rodgers cronies, but I will say at the same time, will he make a push for the cronies? I'm not sure. Lazard, I know Armin's joking, enjoy Lazard if he gets cut by the Jets. I hope they do cut him. But to me, and also Rodgers is a bit of a distraction with the whole McAfee thing. And I'll explain, and I'll just say this as well. Like, to me, if you're signing up for 2 years of Aaron Rodgers, you're trying to win a Super Bowl. That's my honest opinion. But I will also say as well, as I actually just kind of lost my point, the Jets were in a different situation. I will say this. Was 100% of the Jets' demise last year Aaron Rodgers' fault? Absolutely not. The Jets fired their coach 5 games in, which they should have done the previous year. They fired the general manager how many games in? But Rodgers' leadership, which is, you guys are probably going to ask about too, was non-existent. Because when the team was collapsing, Rodgers was kind of in his own shell. When Rodgers would go to the sideline after a certain drive or after many drives, he would just kind of sit on the tablet. He really wouldn't talk to teammates. Kind of just be there with Hackett or Todd Downing. Really wouldn't talk to his other teammates. And you guys got some young players too. It's not like we are the ones solely with young players. Like we obviously had Garrett Wilson and all these different guys, Braylon Allen, Breece Hall. You guys have Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson. Slayton's a veteran, but he's still relatively young. And I'm sure you guys also got Theo Johnson as well. So you have some young playmakers, but do you really – I'm not sure he's the leader that we were proposed to having, is what I'm saying. I don't think he's a great leader. I think the McAfee shit will get old if you start to lose because Rodgers will be like, he is a weirdo. We all know that. He'll be like, oh, let's stay. Alex loves this one. Let's stay sanguine. We got to be calm. All these different things. But as well, like the Giants fans are tired of losing. You want sustainable success. Give me 1 second.
You got any thoughts to piggyback off that?
That is interesting, and I'm just looking at the comparisons between Wilson and Rodgers in terms of the years that they had. So Wilson coming off 2024 completed 63% of his passes, which is kind of mediocre. 2,400 yards, 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, quarterback rating of 95.6. I mean, none of those numbers particularly are like outstanding. As opposed for Rodgers at the Jets, 63% of his passes, but almost 4,000 yards, 3,800 yards, which I say would be the best amount of yards that a Giant quarterback would have thrown in 10 years. 28 touchdowns, 11 picks, and a 90 quarterback rating, 90.5. I think that's why there's such a clear pecking order. Rodgers had by far the better year than Russell Wilson. So, yes, look.
I was going to also add as well. I know you guys looking at the stats, and this is an interesting one because, you guys are saying, he had a pretty above average year last year, which would have been obviously better than Daniel Jones. The stats, in my opinion, don't make out to what he really was. I don't think he was that good last year. I thought he was fairly average to below average. If you look at the deeper efficiency metrics, I think it's EPA and all those different things, he was bottom of the league. Just to get into some of the stuff that I noticed via the games and stuff.
Yeah, let's get those stats up while you bring that up. Could you check that out?
Let me look at because Michael Nania did a great example, and I'll bring this up when I bring up the statistics and all of that, and saying he was an average quarterback, an above average quarterback per the regular stats. That was a big reason of why the Jet fans wanted to bring him back. They're like, you know what, he was the best, and I'm comparing this just to relative to you guys because I know you guys were basically saying the same thing. Not that you guys had Rodgers, but just the prospect of having him. Rodgers, had above average year versus per the statistics, that would have been the best year since 2015, what you guys said, Eli Manning. For us, that would have been the best year since Ryan Fitzpatrick. You watch the games, just not great. And here's some notable Jets. Let me just look over the stat real quick. This is quarterback efficiency, ranking composite EPA, which is estimated. Somebody help me out here. Let me just double check EPA. Why am I completely just fumbling?
Expected points added.
Expected points added. And then there's a separate stat. I'm just trying to look this up. CPOE from 2022 to 2024.
Completion percentage over expected.
Okay. Rodgers ranked 35th.
Okay. And could you get Russell Wilson's just as a matter of comparison?
Russell Wilson. Okay. Because it's chart. Let's see. I'm gonna find Rodgers for you. I see Russell Wilson where he's marked. Because it's a spray chart with a bunch of different names, so I'm trying to dig as hard as possible.
If you want, you can share the screen.
Yeah, I'm going to share it, actually. That's a better idea, because we can all search for this together. Here's your spray chart.
Let me see if I can find something.
And I just knocked over my water bowl. Let's see if we can find. Oh, here we go. Found Rodgers. Okay. So Rodgers, we'll look at EPA per play. He's at around 0.10. Russell Wilson is at about 0.00, about right on the same mark as Anthony Richardson, maybe. Maybe I'm wrong because they have little dots. Because again, I'm trying to see the dots because here's the Wilson dot. Perfect. Big black one. Just a little bit above Anthony Richardson. A little bit above. We're talking like Drake May's just a pinch below Russell Wilson. And also completion percentage above expected. That's where Russell Wilson's better, not Rodgers. But Rodgers is better than the EPA.
Okay. So how would you assess that then?
It's tough because this is like my first look at it in a while.
It's interesting. For Barbara, you're right. When I said 10 years, I meant like almost 10 years. You're right. It was 2018. Right. Manning was unbelievable. 2018. From the top of my head, I think he had 4,300 yards. Eli Manning, he was fucking amazing in 2018. But I mean, you're talking about. It's still an incredibly long time between 2018 and 2025 that we've had even a quarterback that's even come close to 4,000 yards. So that's probably what I meant. Anyway, yeah, look.
So I'm trying to look into some comparables as well. And before I assess it, I just want to share some of the comparables from the spray chart. Russell Wilson would be aligned with, Daniel Jones on EPA. He would be aligned with Drake May. He would be aligned with Joe Flacco, Gardner Minshew. So the average tier, and as famous YouTuber Yearning Tree calls it, you could say that the Steelers were carried by high-end talent. I'm surprised Russell Wilson was this bad in those metrics. But in terms of Rodgers, the completion percentage, I think, speaks for itself. The EPA is a little bit better than I expected. I thought he would be around the same as Russell Wilson. I just still wouldn't go there, honestly. That's just my personal opinion.
But between the two, obviously you've experienced the Aaron Rodgers experience. But between the two, if you're in our spot, who would you go with?
I'm gonna be, and this is gonna sound like recency bias. I would probably go Russell Wilson because he's going to cost a fraction. I don't think because Russell Wilson will try to play in any offense. I don't think Rodgers will. And I think Rodgers has to notice whether he goes to Pittsburgh or the Giants that he's not going to be playing in his offense per se, his West Coast offense, his lack of motion offense. I would kind of go Russell Wilson for you guys. I don't know if there's any other free agent. Maybe Jameis Winston. That's another name. Like if you really want to just Again, Aaron Rodgers, as I said earlier, is more for a team that's a quarterback away for Super Bowl purposes, not playoff. I think you can compete with Russell Wilson for a playoff spot. And Alex, Donald, you obviously can chime in too. Let's just say you guys sign Russell Wilson. Would you guys still be open to be drafting a quarterback?
I still either you sign Rodgers, you sign Wilson, you sign fucking Carson Wentz. The Giants need to draft a quarterback at 3. Like
Oh,
I'm not
really?
for this. Forget the quarterback nonsense. That's me.
I mean, I want to really do work on the quarterbacks. The only one of the two that I've really looked at is Saunders. No, I've looked at 3. I like Dart, Saunders, and Ward. I don't like Dart. I'm not that high on Saunders, and I really love Ward. But if say we signed an Aaron Rodgers, do we really need to trade up to 1 to get? Would you still trade up to 1 to get Ward? Because I think that's where he's going to be going.
I would still trade up because my thing is I'm not sitting here and I'm not falling into this, I would say, lavish trap that Joe Shane might fall into. Whether it's Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, we're gonna try to compete with, like, that's the retooling shit that the Giants and other teams have tried and it's failed, right? You have an out plan if the season goes awry within the first few weeks. Russell Wilson, let's say, or Rodgers, whatever. The Giants first few games, because the schedule is brutal. Let's not cross that off. The schedule
really
is
tough schedule.
fucking brutal, right? So let's just say in the first 7 games, you're like 2-5. But you're competing in some of those games, and I hate using that word because it's like a moral victory, but that's where we are. You compete in some of those games, but you realize, okay, you could go get you bring in the rookie quarterback, bring in Shador, bring in fucking Cam Ward. You have a direction there. As long as the team is playing relatively well and competing, and you have the rookie quarterback and he's making his own mistakes and you're losing, but you're competing, that's a saving grace. The reason why I would absolutely despise not drafting a quarterback within that range is because let's just say you have a similar situation. You're like 2-5 with Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers or whatever it is. And then the Giants, what do they do every single year? The Giants, when the season is over, they start winning games. And then you're going to push yourself out of contention for the quarterbacks the following year, which we talked yesterday about really shit dumping the next regime. If they get fired, that's shit dumping the next regime. And I would not be a fan of that. Luca, you have something to say?
I was going to add this is the comparative because we were just talking about Russell Wilson. We just talked about and I'll bring up the Steelers as well. And I'm going to bring up the Vikings too because the Vikings signed Sam Darnold. Okay. Who was their backup plan? They went out and drafted J.J. McCarthy. The Steelers do not have a quarterback right now because Justin Fields is on my team on the Jets, and Russell Wilson's a free agent, probably gone. I don't know how badly Steelers fans want him back. I think more fans actually wanted Justin Fields back. But I think it's very fruitful, in my opinion, to have some sort of a backup plan in case this season goes awry. There's one's a negative, one's a positive with Rodgers. There is a chance, in my opinion, that he could be fully healed from his injuries last year and the year before. But in case he gets hurt again, I think you'll be dealing with a guy who's egotistical and who will want to play hurt. And then eventually, in my opinion, not trying to be the negative Nancy, it will start to drag down your season a little bit. Like you could be like 2-4, and he'll be playing like on a hurt knee or sore knee or some crap like that. You need that backup plan to try to save your season, but Rodgers is telling you, no, I want to play. Brian Dable has to be the bigger guy. But also, you guys got to have a backup plan at quarterback besides from the guy who you're going to sign. Now, again, I think it's not only the perfect fallback strategy for saving your season, drafting a quarterback, it's also setting, and you're not really drafting for the next regime. You're saying, you know what, obviously you want your guy to groom, if the season's successful, if the Giants go 7-10, the regime's fired. Next regime, okay, the quarterback we draft, the guys drafted last year, okay, he's our quarterback. We're going to start to groom him our way. So it's their project.
So there's also another way you could look at it, though.
Okay.
He's now a year further away from that huge injury that he had. So maybe he'll be even healthier going into
that's what I was
year.
saying.
So there's a possibility there. And also another way to look at it is he'll have much better coaching. Dable's a much better offensive coach than anything the Jets really had.
I'll listen. I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm not going to disagree.
So, maybe he'd actually benefit from having a better coaching situation, because although the Jets had a far superior roster last year to the Giants, and it wasn't funny, the coaching was a mess.
Absolutely, coaching in this league,
and it's weird because the Giants have an awful roster, but they have a pretty good coach. And I'm wondering whether Dable would actually help an Aaron Rodgers, and maybe he'll maybe scheme situations in which Rodgers would get the most out of him, Malik Neighbors, better than what the Jets did to get Wilson open for Rodgers. It's another way of looking at it.
That's what I was saying. The reason I said positive and negative is the positive I originally said was he's coming off. He's fully a year plus off the Achilles.
Yeah,
he's going to be healed from all the injuries he had last year with the knee and all those different things, the lower leg injuries. In terms of schematics, yes, I completely agree with you. Dable is miles better than a Nathaniel Hackett or a Todd Downing. They both sucked last year, and there's a reason. They were both retreads. Jets hired him, whatever. There's a part of me, and this is not trying to be cynical, I'm just trying to be realistic. Yeah. What if Rodgers is like a lost puppy without his offense? Because throughout his entirety of his career, he's ran a West Coast offense, as I said, limited motion. And listen, I'm not saying Dable can't find a scheme for him. I'm questioning whether Rodgers can adapt. And that's probably one of the reasons, in my opinion, why Rodgers is no longer a Jet. If our coaching staff, the current coaching staff we have, felt that he couldn't adapt to a new offense, whether it was Eggstrand or whatever, he simply is going to have to realize, and this is his self-reflection. We all know Aaron Rodgers, is very prideful. He's going to have to say, you know what? I got to learn a new offense. Even though I'm 42 years old, I have to learn a new offense if I want to play 2 more years. It can't be this lack of motion, stagnant offense where
he might be a scheme fit for Kafka, and I believe that Kafka will be calling plays this year unless there's anything crazy that happens. Don't you think that he'd maybe be a scheme fit for a Mike Kafka offense, Alex?
He does run a quick offense. I would. The thing is, I mean, again, I'm not a huge fan of having Rodgers run his own offense. That's dinosaur era. But I feel like a lot of the play action that the Giants did in the past was because of Daniel Jones, and that's the only thing he could fucking run.
That's true.
So I think Kafka would embrace the quickness of the offense and at the same time moving it downfield.
Can I add in a positive?
Sure.
And I know I've been fairly critical of Rodgers.
Yeah.
I think he does make your offensive lineman better by calling out certain protections and noticing things that or anticipating the defense before other anticipating the defense, just calling out things that other quarterbacks wouldn't do. Daniel Jones couldn't read a defense. Aaron Rodgers would be like, okay, I see X players coming up. I'm not basically, he's going to think in his mind, I can't throw to him. Like the Patriots game, one of his better games last year, the Jets-Patriots game, it was week 3. He did a great job of manipulating the defense. There's just certain plays he was noticing the safety. There's just the pre-snap reads. He's a very smart football player. And that's not going to change over time. That's just, obviously at the wise age of 42, it can only get better. So I think that's a positive in terms of manipulating the defense. But one of the other negatives, as I will bring up, doesn't really utilize the tight end position much. You guys have Theo Johnson, and we were all high on him last year. if you really want him to grow, I don't think it's going to be with Rodgers, in my personal opinion, because the last 2 years with Tyler Conklin, I think he was a very good tight end. I thought the Jets made a really nice signing. It just wasn't properly utilized. Whether it was before and Zach Wilson, like he needed good quarterback play, and I don't think Rodgers was willing to throw to him at times. Like there were times that he would over target him at times, but there's times where just like he'd be open and couldn't be seen. But I just don't. One of the things, one of my worries, and I know I'm kind of going on a tangent, is like I don't want a situation. Now that you guys won't have, as I said, you won't have the Green Bay clan, should I say, or the Green Bay buddies to piss off Malik Neighbors, but you're giving him no option. Like we're not going to add your Green Bay boys. You're gonna have to play with our players.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, well said. I will say there's definitely a positive to bringing in an Aaron Rodgers, and I'll get to that in a minute. I want to see how because who was in the slot for you guys last year? It definitely wasn't Corley.
Garrett Wilson at times, and that would be our greatest mismatch because Wilson is like awesome. We all know that.
Because I'm trying to think, right? Neighbors
we didn't add Adams till midseason. Malachi Corley was not getting reps. It was Lazard. Why am I? Because 2023 is just 2024 is just in the past. It was Lazard. It was Garrett Wilson. I'm forgetting who. Again, I'm forgetting who's in the slot. I have no clue why. I'm gonna look up the depth chart. Let me
go to our lads. Because here's how I would envision it, right? You talked about the tight end position. I think he definitely would throw to Neighbors. I think he would definitely throw to Slayton because Slayton's a veteran on the Giants. I don't know how much he's going to throw to Wandale if he comes here. Like that's my thing. Again, I could be wrong. That's my question. Again, like, we'll see. My thing to like the ultra positive thing with Rodgers is if you're Joe Shane, right, and you set your balls on the table in the negotiations and say you can't bring your Green Bay, and this is again such an ideal situation. I don't think it's going to happen. You can't go on McAfee, can't bring your buddies. You have to be okay with the potential possibility if the season goes awry, we're going to the rookie. But let's just say the Giants, right? They have this tough schedule. They draft a rookie in Cam Ward or whatever the situation may be. I'm not going to say they would be Vikings dominant, but just imagine while you have a backup plan in that rookie, you win 8, 9, 10 games. I would enjoy that. I'm going to be completely honest with you because it's not like, oh, it's Daniel Jones. It's one season. You don't have a backup plan. Like Rodgers in that situation, ideally you would want, him to either come back, probably not, but also maybe ride off into the sunset or go to another team in 2026. But like, I mean, that's where the positive is. And I think they would, as silly as it is for me to say that I would rather want Russell Wilson because of the distraction aspect, I think that if you want a situation where you have a rookie quarterback in and you want to reach the playoffs with a vet, I think Rodgers is your best bet. I think he is your best option because Donald said the coaching is better. The defense is coming along. And once again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show with the way the Giants are spending, they're establishing that they are not that far off on offense. They just need a piece or two and two fucking quarterbacks.
I mean, I'm also thinking about Russell Wilson and thinking he is like 5 years younger. And he's also more of a positive presence than an Aaron Rodgers, who's more of a sulky kind of brooding figure. Maybe Russell Wilson would be better suited to kind of the Giants, kind of younger players and stuff like that, than an Aaron Rodgers who's never really been known for developing talent. You know what I'm saying? He's not really been that type of guy. Russell Wilson is more that guy. So that's another way of looking at it too. And then you could also use the coaching argument with Russell Wilson too, in terms of offensive coaching. I don't think there's a massive difference between the two. It's really preference. I do think that the Jets actually got the better quarterback of the three. I think Justin Fields has more upside, and there's things that you can do with a Justin Fields that you can't do with Rodgers and Wilson in terms of athleticism and mobility, and you can kind of work with them and develop them. I'm surprised that that's not something the Giants would have done, because I thought that with the Dable connection, that maybe Dable can make him a project, and then you could have staved off trading up to one for a quarterback, and then maybe attack quarterback next year if it doesn't work out with the Justin Fields. I would have thought that would have been something they would have done, but I don't think there's a massive difference between Wilson and Rodgers. It's just kind of personal preference. If you want to go with the bigger yards, you probably go with a Rodgers. But if you want maybe more of a positive presence, then maybe you go with a Wilson.
Well said, Luca.
Alex, I was going to add our slot receiver, and this was not a reflection on Rodgers. This was a reflection of the poor roster management and construction, and years of missing on receivers. Our slot receiver was Xavier Gibson last year, who was a terrible returner and a terrible receiver. But I will also add, it's an obvious thing that we need to bring up. When it comes down to the cold weather, Rodgers is one of the best. He is a cold weather quarterback. Just have to point that out there. But I was also going to point out the Fields thing. You guys could have run a ton of RPO with him.
Yeah.
So that's what I like. I know Jet Smith Mess is hating the Justin Fields pickup. I actually like it, if I'm being completely honest, and not really to get into my aspect, I was just responding to the comment. But if I was in you guys' position, I'd prefer Russell Wilson. Like, that's just my preference. But let me ask you guys this. Let's just say, I don't know, the Giants win 10 games this year. They make the playoffs. Do you go all in next year? And do you go all in next year to win a Super Bowl? To have Rodgers ride out on that cloud? I'm just throwing that out there. We don't know what's going to happen this year. I'm just throwing it out there.
No, you have to be smart. I mean, we still have to establish when are we drafting this quarterback.
No, exactly. Completely agree.
So that's the key for me. For me, if you bring in if I'm going to trade up to one for Cam Ward, I want Cam Ward to be starting day one. In my opinion,
I can see. Yeah, I mean,
I would do that because I'd much rather get the 5 full years of your quarterback to really know what you got before you consider extensions, etc. So I just feel that the value is important there, especially if you're trading away really valuable picks that you could use to acquire starters in the draft, or trade for like starting caliber players in the draft, like to trade up to one and then not have him be your starting quarterback. I'm not sure if I would do that. So what I would do is I would do either or, in my opinion, but I'm certainly not going to just, unless Cam Ward drops to 3, then I would select him, but I'm not trading up to 1 to get a Cam Ward and have an Aaron Rodgers. What I would do is I'm going best player available at 3. If we get an Aaron Rodgers, I'm going best player available. If it's Cam Ward, yes. If not, then I'm going to go Carter or Mason Graham, and make this team ridiculous. And then you can take a flyer on a less high risk option, maybe in day 2 for a quarterback. I could say a Jalen Milroe or whatever, and then you can go into the quarterback situation next year and where you are in the draft with a stronger draft. That's probably what I would do. I would hate for us to do a panic and then say you select a Rodgers and then draft a Dart or in pick number 3, which would be a Daniel Jones type move. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I would hate to do that because I don't think the value is in that. I think there's better value going with best player available at 3, unless we don't have a quarterback, in which trade up to 1, whatever it costs, get me Cam Ward. That's kind of what I'm thinking. It really depends on how things play out.
I wanted to add, come back off of Donald's point, just a few things as well. The Giants already missed out on quarterback last year to grab their own blue chip player in Malik Neighbors. Would they really and it's great with Donald's point, would they really pass up a quarterback again for another blue chip player? And Abdul Carter is a great talent. The problem is he has injury problems, which have been well documented in the pre-draft process. But obviously, we know what the regime is in, kind of position they're in. They're trying to save their jobs, and you really wouldn't do that. But Jess Smith says the Giants have the toughest division in the league. Well, yeah, I was just saying that for a hypothetical, Jess Smith. I wasn't going to say that the Giants are going to win 10 games. It was a hypothetical. Also, as well, Scrub Zero says, no way in hell would I roll the dice going all in. That's why we're already in this situation, pretty much so. I also wanted to add, with Jess Smith's comment, like, obviously, you have the Eagles. The Cowboys, I think, have remained mediocre. The Commanders are getting better by the minute. Deebo Samuel trade. They're adding to their defense a little bit. Will Harris. Javon Kinlaw, I thought that was a bad contract. They just traded for Laramie Tunsil. They have their offensive line set for Daniels. Daniels here, too.
Phenomenal.
There's part of me that thinks Daniels might take a step back, partially, kind of like Stroud did last year, just partially. But you look at the two teams, you have the Eagles, you have the Commanders. The Vikings, nobody knows what's happening. The Lions are obviously going to remain top dog. Packers, I think they're going to be a very good team. They're not going to be great, but I think they'll still be very good. Just trying to think, and I'll bring up my point in a second. I'm just trying to rattle off some of the better NFC teams. The Bucks, I think they'll still be very good, but I think they'll be top of the division. Falcons don't know what's happening. Saints are in a reset, so I don't think they'll be good. As I said, Falcons, Panthers.
I think we're better off looking at the NFC East, where we're going to be with the NFC.
Yeah,
East.
that's what my point was. Just all these different teams, and I'd say the division is more. If this makes sense, tell me if it doesn't. The division is more closed than the NFC. It really is, because I think the NFC, if you really are like one of the better teams and you're sneakily really good, I think you could be one of the better teams in the NFC. But obviously, you have to get past your division first. And with the Rodgers thing, and I talked about Super Bowl, where does Rodgers rank among the quarterbacks in the NFC, let alone the division, is the question to ask. And that's and I'm not saying that's like a negative. I'm just generally asking, if you really want Rodgers and want to go for, in my opinion, what I say is a Super Bowl, you guys say playoff spot, where does he rank among the quarterbacks in the NFC? And in your own division, obviously. You guys could think about that.
Well, let's look at the NFC East, right? Well, obviously he's behind Hurts. He's definitely behind Daniels. Oh my God, Daniels, baby, so good. Prescott, there's a conversation. Probably edge towards Prescott, right? But I don't. The thing is, he's still. Even Rodgers in his diminished state at 41 is considerably, clearly, unequivocally better than Daniel Jones. Unequivocally, like different, like just different stratospheres. So at least he kind of brings us closer to the pack. You can have a conversation with a Rodgers and a Prescott rather than kind of laugh at the concept. You know what I'm saying? As for the NFC East, where we would stand, obviously, would be way behind the Commanders and the Eagles. I'm not that sold on the Cowboys.
No, they haven't done anything in the past 2 years.
They never do. So, like, there's something there that you could maybe sneak in that spot, but it's a hell of a brutal schedule. It really is. It's a horrendous schedule.
That's a concern. And obviously, look across the NFC. You got Jared Goff. You have Jordan Love. You have Baker Mayfield. If you're really trying to win this, again, this is from my perspective. If I was a Giant fan, win that Super Bowl, do whatever with Rodgers. Is he really like? Does he? How close does he bring you? Is the question. Me and Donald just spoke about it. How close does he bring you to a division? How close does he bring you to being a really Super Bowl contender with all those teams in the NFC?
Super Bowl. Wild card contender, not Super Bowl contender.
Exactly, and I think that's I think if you're going for a wild card and you really don't see yourself at the top, just to make a playoff push to save your job, Russell Wilson's the guy. That's my personal opinion. He's younger too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
With less baggage. I mean, to go off your point earlier, if whether they whether they trade up for Cam Ward or they have a Shador in the building, I'm not letting Rodgers come back for a second year. Like that's just it's not where I am. You take the Vikings approach. That's the way I see it, right? I mean, we'll see how JJ McCarthy plays because that's its own entity. But as I said, the only positive I could see is the Giants being relevant, not really, John Mara won't have to worry about butts and seats. Rodgers hopefully shutting his mouth. You won't have to worry about draft position next year. You could just take a BPA and not worry about a fucking quarterback. So there are reasons to be optimistic, but there are reasons to be also on a seesaw because there's a zillion things that can fucking happen. Yeah, I'm just gonna look at a couple of comments here. Maybe we get Rodgers and draft a quarterback. Things looking much brighter. Yeah, no, I think
we're definitely going to draft a quarterback at some point in this draft. It's in the top 100 picks. It's definite.
They're not going to sit here and we're going to sign Rodgers and then we're going to go sign fucking Trey Lance. No, they're going to draft a quarterback at some point.
Yeah.
Which we'll see how that occurs in itself.
I wonder where do you think Milroe? Do you think Milroe will be like a third round, second round?
I'm going to say late second to very early fourth.
Very early fourth. Okay, so you can get him in a third?
If you don't draft a quarterback in the first round, I would. I mean, we got 5 picks in the first 100. So.
I'm not a big fan of Milroe. I think there's a lot of issues with him, but I think he's got a little bit of upside there with good coaching, that there's something that you can work with as a decent backup in this league. I think Milroe could be that as a solid backup in this league. So maybe I'm thinking about him in day 2 as opposed to reaching for a dart third overall.
Yeah,
I would really hate that. I really would hate that. I'm not a fan. I mean, if third comes along and Sanders is still available, then I would probably do it. But I'm really liking the idea of best player available. And if we get a really good, decent quarterback in a Wilson or Rodgers, it kind of takes away the need to panic at quarterback. And what are your thoughts on that? Because, Alex, you're saying that you would 100% trade up for one or select a quarterback at 3. So how about my scenario? Say Cam Ward's taken by the Titans, first overall, right? We get to 3. Say we have Wilson or Rodgers, whichever one. What do you do?
Is Shador there?
It's up to yourself. Yeah, let's say most likely, probably. Yeah,
I'm taking Shador.
Yeah, you're taking Shador.
I'm taking Shador. Overall.
Okay, makes sense. Look up.
If he's there at 3, you're saying?
Yeah,
I would take him.
What, Shador?
Yeah. Plus now let me ask you guys this. Apparently, you guys got a 3rd-round pick for McKinney in terms of compensatory draft pick. Would you guys consider trading back into the 1st round to get yourself a playmaker or something like that?
No.
2nd round?
What I would do is, let's just say Shador, Cam falls to 3 or whatever. Cam probably not Shador, whatever. He falls to 3. I would stack the fucking trenches. I'd take at least one we're talking 5 picks in the top 100. Quarterback, D-line, O-line.
Very D-line heavy draft, by the way. Corner. That's why you don't even have to draft one at 3.
Yeah. So you got quarterback, O-line, D-line. I would maybe take another corner, and then definitely a guard. Well, actually, no, I just said O-line. So this is up to you. Like the last one is up to anyone, to be honest.
Well, I mean, I'm going running back early. I would love a playmaker running back.
I'm looking for a power back.
Would you do Cam Scatabo?
I mean, I like other ones.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really like the running backs in this draft.
You like Judkins from Ohio State?
Love me some Judkins. I do love me some Judkins. I think Judkins is awesome. But there are some other ones too that I like. And obviously, we're going to do a show about the draft, I'm sure, more closer to the time. But I would like the Giants in the first 3 rounds, first 3 picks that we get to use that on a really good running back to partner with Tracy, and I think that would be awesome. That would be good for Rodgers too, or Wilson, whichever one. I quite like that idea because I'm pretty sure we're kind of going wide receiver set as it is.
Yeah.
No, I mean it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I would quite like a nice running back to make it a. I think you need 2 quality running backs in this league anyway. So draft me one.
Yeah. Singletary stinks and Gray stinks. We didn't like Gray from the beginning, me and Donald.
Oh,
remember, we were watching
still here.
Yeah, Singletary and Gray are still here.
Oh no!
Yeah, we were watching the Senior Bowl from 2023, and we're like, this guy's slow. Like he had that one good game against the Lions in the preseason, and we're like, okay, maybe we're wrong. And then he returns kicks and he fumbles at the goal line, and he does all that sort of shit.
I can't stand Singletary. Can't stand him.
He looks like he's running in mud.
Yeah.
You really don't like that.
First,
What the fuck was
That was one of the greatest moments I've ever had.
That's a classic.
oh man,
Thank you, phone.
that was.
I want
Where did that come from?
mess. Hot take. I would trade Elijah Vera Tucker. He's on the final year of his deal. God forbid he gets hurt. Great. He's a very good player. Gets hurt all the time. Trade him.
Yeah, I in response to Donald's thing about the running backs, I would take one within the first 5 rounds. 4 is really where I cut it close because I want a power back. I want like a Devin Neal type. That's my
Neal's good. Yeah,
Here's the
Devin
question:
Neal.
who's your running back one?
You just have the committee. You have
You'll do committee. Okay.
yeah. I quite like a committee anyway.
and then
Because that's when the Giants were at their best with Bradshaw and Brandon Jacobs. Like
Derek
they
Ward.
made that work.
Yeah. Maybe he always gets hurt. Yeah. Any final thoughts before we have a little mock draft?
Oh, mock draft, baby, let's go! Oh, let's talk a little bit about Golston.
Oh, sure, yeah. So I want to see because I think Twitter. Maybe Twitter has it. I want to see where Golston aligned. Let's see, because he aligns in different spots. But Donald, what are your first thoughts on the Golston signing?
Loved it. I'm actually surprised that we landed him. And when I was kind of opening my eyes, and I was checking X, and then I saw the Golston and the Giants. It was like, what? Am I dreaming? Is this like? I was like, damn, because I genuinely think he's a really good player, and I think that's a bit of a steal. Because what did he have, like 5.5 sacks last year? Am I right about that?
Let's see. I think you're right. Let's see. Yep, 5.5 sacks, highest in his career.
Yeah, there's a player in there, man, and you could argue an upgrade over Aziz.
He doesn't get hurt.
He's also
he doesn't.
Also a top 50 player in pressures last year.
And pressures?
Yeah. Almost 40.
Bring it on down. Yeah, I think that was a bit of a steal, man. He also had an interception last year.
Let's see.
He had 5.5 sacks with a fumble recovery and an interception. So I liked it, man. I think that was a smart little pickup, and you can use him inside and outside as well. You can make that work. I mean, obviously, that would be a dream for Wink Martindale. That would be his like a wet dream as a kind of a Goldstein type. But yeah, we've got to make do with our shitty defensive coordinator. Let's hope that he makes use of this guy because this guy can play.
Yeah. As for my thoughts on Golston, I mean, there's more of a pass rush upside, as mentioned. He plays the interior defensive line. He plays edge, so I think he's a chess piece. I that's again where I like Wink a little bit more because I feel like he was he was a bit more creative on that front. I know he didn't usually like stunts, but I think remember the way he used Jihad Ward, except Golston is a far better player and Golston's not a fucking front runner like Jihad Ward is celebrating down 30. But nonetheless, Golston's a pretty good signing. $6 million per year for a guy that's you could see last year when his snap count increased. He played 72% of the snaps, 17 games, 13 starts, and 5.5 sacks. And he was one of the top guys in pressures. So no problem with him. I mean, as Don said, he had an interception last year. And he's not your second guy. He's your third guy. So, I very much approve. Very much approve of this signing. I wish I could get the alignment count for like how many times he aligned in the interior defensive line and also the edge, but I guess stats are pretty limited at this moment. But 3 years, 19 and a half. I mean, you really can't go wrong there. Really can't go wrong. But any final thoughts before we go to the mock draft?
No, let's do this. Let's have fun with this mock draft.
Okay, so this is the first time this season I'm doing PFN. They've also added the 99th pick, so no need to do any extra maneuvering. I did include the Jets, Luca, so
yay,
they're in that. Yay! All right, so their rankings are a little bit different. Let's see. All right, so Travis Hunter and Cam Ward are off the board. I'm not going back to 18. Donald, you agree with me there?
Oh yeah, I'm not trading. Well, I mean, what would be what's the offer?
Oh wait,
is there a first round pick next year?
No, there was no first round pick.
No, forget it then. Let's pick best player available.
I'm still in my eyes looking Shedeur, who's ranked at 10. My other backup options would be Carter and Graham. Donald, you let me know how you feel.
Well, I'm a big proponent with best player available.
Okay.
Especially because the Giants are in this situation as they are. Are we working under the assumption the Giants have a quarterback at this point, or are we going with this, or going with where we're at right now?
I'm gonna say let's work under the assumption that they have a veteran quarterback in the building.
Okay. Because you could go Shedeur Saunders, and you got yourself your quarterback for the future. I mean, I could live with that. I mean, I love Abdul Carter. Like, he's freaking amazing. But then you'd also have to ask the question. We've got Golston. We've also got Thibodeau and Burns. Do you really need a fourth edge? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, although you could go Mason Graham, he's a freaking monster too. So, all right, let's go with either Mason Graham or Shedeur. What would you say?
Okay, I'm gonna say because it's a deep D line class, let's go with Shedeur, and then
let's do it. Let's go Shedeur. I'm all right with that because you got your quarterback of the future.
Luca, let me know if there's an offer you like.
Okay. No, I don't like that one. I'll go to the next one because I'm curious. I like the idea of stacking draft picks. Go back to the last one.
Ooh, that's a nice one. Pick 12 and pick 44.
I'm a bit intrigued by Dallas. Go back to the Denver one for a second because I want to see how far I'm trading back. The idea that I could add more draft picks.
It's essentially this trade is, let's see, you're going back to 20. They're coming up to 85. They're coming up to 73. You're getting 51. and you're also getting a next year second and third.
Because I'll explain my problem here. I fucking love Tyler Warren. For the Giant fans, he's like a Jeremy Shockey type player. If you're a Colts fan, he's like a Dallas Clark. And the thing is, too, like, this tight end class is not breadth of talent. You could get a Harold Fannin in the second or third round, and the Jets have many holes to fill. But you know what? We also need receiver help.
Yeah, Smith wants McMillan. McMillan is.
I don't like the receiver room the Jets have right now outside of Malachi Corley and Garrett Wilson. I'll go with Tet. Let's go for a tight end in the.
You're gonna stay at the pick.
I'm gonna stay at the pick.
Okay.
We'll go
Ted McMillan, yes.
Yes.
All right. They don't do grades here, so
Yeah.
34. All right, Donald. I don't think I want to trade with the Cowboys to get 10 spots. What do you think?
Yeah.
And then this one, no, not back to 63.
That's worse.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Ooh, Walter
I do
Nolan
like-
is there.
I do like Tyreek Williams. There's something you can work with there.
Williams is. Oh, you got three nasty defensive tackles right there.
That
You
would
also
be
have Mike Green.
Yeah, but Walter Nolan is a fucking monster.
Yeah, he is too. I'm. But then there's also Donovan Jackson, who'd be your starting offensive guard.
True.
And I'm not guaranteed that we have ourselves an offensive guard right now. Say we do sign a quarterback for pretty big money as a veteran, we might need to protect them. Although you could maybe get a Tate Ratledge, Georgia.
Next pick.
I think either defensive tackle, we'll say either Nolan or Williams or Donovan Jackson. I'm happy with either of those three. Alex?
I'm gonna take Walter Nolan, and I think he's gonna be a beast alongside Dex.
True.
All right, Luca.
No. And no.
Okay. Harold Fannon's right there.
Take him. I love me some Harold Fannin.
Tack him.
Take him. Let's go.
All right. No, and no. I got this is interesting, right? Because you were talking about offensive line. There's two ways we could go with this, Donald. And it's nasty that Tyreek Williams is still there. Josh
Shit.
Connolly, he plays right tackle. What if you move Illuminor to right guard? That's number one. Number two is Marcus Bowe. Both of these guys we got to speak with, by the way, which is great. Bowe can go. His ceiling is projected as a guard. He's a nasty
Okay.
run blocker too. So
I'm starting to wish that we took the guard in the
Second.
previous round and took Williams at third. Who would have dropped? Imagine he would have dropped to 30. Okay, well, I like the sound of him, but where's the running back situation? Is there? I wouldn't mind giving ourselves a
Travion Henderson.
There he is. Who else have we got? Running back. Scatterbo is there. Ole Gordon at 126. Dylan Sampson. I like Dylan Sampson.
Neal and Allen are pretty good. They're pretty good power backs.
Yeah, and then Neal's way down. Okay, so we don't need to panic. We're running back. That's fine then. Okay, let's go with your guy in Bogue.
Okay. All right. Marcus Bowe, starting right guard.
Okay. Next one. I was going to say don't reject it, but that's okay. Yeah, you can reject it too.
All right.
Okay, so
Right tackle. Just a thought.
it's a good shout, honestly. Let's see what right tackle's about. Alex, what are your thoughts on Josh Connerly?
I think he's got footwork issues, but he's worth the hype he's getting, in my opinion.
Is he a right tackle?
Yeah, he started right tackle at Oregon.
Draft him.
All right. So the other guy that we don't get, Luca gets, which is okay. It's good. It's in good hands. Comp pick time. No. And no. Okay. Scatabo is there.
Mm-hmm.
If we really wanted to dunk another defensive lineman, they're there too.
TJ Sanders is kind of nice.
Now, I'm going to propose a very... I don't know. I think this idea might be foreign to Donald, but let me throw it out there.
Okay.
Let's say Rodgers or Russell Wilson's in the building, and we took Shedeur Sanders. Would you be opposed to 2014ing this draft and selecting a developmental guy later on?
Yeah. We've got Sanders, got Rodgers. I'm asking any more quarterbacks. We got to fill out some other positions in need. I'd be interested. I want to go offense. We need some playmakers in here. So let's go running back or receiver. I would not dismiss wide receiver either. So let me think here. Let's have a look. So Scatabo,
Giddens, Tootin.
I mean, Scatabo gives you that power back.
Absolutely.
Let's have a look at receiver.
I love me some Ty Felton, but he's more of a 4th round guy.
Yeah. The thing with Lacey is he has that the hit and run over his head. I don't know what the situation like that is. Me personally, I'm favoring running back.
Yeah. Obviously, we'll go best running back. I think Scatabo is obviously the highest rated as it stands. Maybe it might change later as the draft process goes on. But as of right now, let's go Cam.
All right, Cam Scatabo, you are a New York Giant.
Now you've got
we're
power
105.
back. Plus you got Tyrone Tracy as well. Yeah, that's an interesting running back room. Okay.
Now we're kind of in a sort of comfort zone, Donald.
Yeah.
Because we drafted well. Our free agency is stacking up. Let me see who else we got on the board.
Don't forget, you could go best.
You
player.
could go, and I'm being real with this now. You could go another tackle because let's take a look at this precisely. Illuminor's only got one more year, and you have Marcus Bowe, who could play guard and tackle, but we drafted him and play guard. So I'm throwing that out there. I'm not saying it has to be.
Remember, we just signed a very decent swing tackle in Hudson.
Yeah, decent.
You've kind of got tackle kind of in the bag.
Decent at best.
What about center?
Okay, let's see interior
Smith
offensive line.
is highly overrated.
I'm not a Dellinger fan.
You're at guard. You're at guard. You're not at center.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. Yeah, McLaughlin's coming off of an injury, and he's not rated till 157.
Yeah, nothing there. I mean, wide receiver, you could maybe go and take that Lacey now.
Yeah,
you're probably getting a pretty good value at 96.
Yeah,
or Felton. Who else is there?
Let me pull up Ty Felton, my scouting report on him.
Yeah. Ricky White, Pat Bryant, LSU Lacey. I wouldn't hate that.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't go wrong here.
No.
Yeah.
I was going to offer my insight on Felton. He was one of the first prospects that I did. So last year at Maryland, 96 receptions, 1,124 yards, 9 touchdowns, 11.7 yards per reception. I put him as basically kind of a hybrid between Emmanuel Sanders and Sammy Watkins. Versatile, can line up in multiple alignments. He has a proficient yak ability, fluid route runner, and reliable hands. He also has some special teams experience, but my fit, obviously 4th round pick. Sammy Watkins, Emmanuel Sanders.
What's his negative?
Negatives, let's get into that. Does not possess game-breaking speed, questionable separation against press coverage, and subpar blocking ability on receiver screens. He's 6'2" and 185.
It's not
Decent height. Let's look at Lacey. We got the.
I do have Lacey. Okay, Lacey, I was like half and half. I said he's like a late 3rd rounder, which fits perfect. Yeah. Last year for LSU, beneficiary of Garrett Nussmeier, 6'2", also as well, 213 pounds, 58 receptions, 866 yards, 9 receiving touchdowns. Some positives: he led the SEC in touchdown receptions in 2024. Lines up both in the slot and on the outside. He has solid twitchiness in his route running horizontally, which creates separation, not vertically. Efficient catch radius for a receiver standing at 6'2", reliable hands that make for good consistency. Negatives: not great speed off the line of scrimmage, does not possess the speed to burn corners over the top, and mostly played against off coverage, typical of a Z receiver. And my comparison was a more versatile Tyler Boyd.
I would not have a problem with either or. So Donald.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking the fact that they hate Hyatt because he's fast as shit, but he doesn't run any routes. Plus, we do have hands issues with Slayton. Maybe you want to go with the more reliable hands. So I'm going to go with Lacey.
All right. Karen Lacey, it is. Jets.
Okay, so
Did you get a wide receiver? Oh yeah, you got Tet.
yeah, you can go into my picks. I would just want to see real quick.
All
Connerly,
offense.
McMillan, and so I basically went offense this far. Okay. Don't need a running back. I don't think I'm drafting a quarterback because we have Jordan Travis already. Not that he's going to be anything, but we have Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor. Enough with that. I wouldn't mind double dipping for another receiver. I'm not sure yet. Tight end, possible. I would double dip as well. Offensive line, we already did Connerly. The problem is Fashan, who's going to be hurt for a while. Center Tippmann. I'm just trying to think this out. So we have Simpson at left guard, Tippmann probably center.
What's your D-line depth looking like outside Quinnen?
Ooh, not good. Let's pull up the depth chart. And I hope the Jets sign on Wuzariki from the Lions. He's supposedly really good. So their defense as of now, updated as of March 11th, Lecky Fotu, Will McDonald, Quinn Williams, and Jermaine Johnson. Now, they should cut Michael Clemens. Fotu, let me look at his contract details. I'm pretty sure it was a 1 year. Let's look at defense line. I'm curious.
Okay, defensive tackle.
I love TJ Sanders. Yeah. Let me just give me 1 second because my thing's being a little slow. I just want to look up Lecky Fotu's contract. For some reason, he's still with the team, which he was basically unavailable last year. Apologies. But right now, as it stands, Alex, what's my next pick?
Your next pick is 145.
Oof. So Fotu supposedly is a free agent. I want a defensive lineman. And I'm going to go with TJ Sanders.
All right. 145 to the Jets is where we're at.
Okay, I do have a problem with the safety room for the Jets. I'm not a fan of Tony Adams. They tendered him. Andre Cisco is good, but he does have some moments of inconsistency. Let's go to safety. Alex, go to the clipboard for Malachi Moore. I know he's been mentioned. Alex, did you look at him at all or no?
Yeah, I did.
What do you think?
Let me pull up my scouting report quickly. Malachi Moore. Man coverage, slot, deep safety versatility. He's got a knack for the ball. Weaknesses, engagement with blockers, hit or miss tackling, thin frame, and speed. He's got to have a really specific scheme fit, which with a defensive coordinator like Wilkes and a defensive head coach, you might be able to cash in.
I think I'll be able to cash in on Moore because we run the same 4-3 base. But the emphasis with Wilkes as opposed to Sal is more secondary and linebackers. So you know what? Let's go Malachi Moore.
Okay, Malachi Moore it is. Giants at 154.
I'm thinking linebacker. I don't know about you. Wouldn't mind some linebacker depth.
Kaiser, I'm a Kaiser fan.
Yeah, he's in Notre Dame.
Notre
Makes
Dame
sense.
was there for like 5 years and was a captain.
Absolutely. Let's see. There's also Dumas Johnson. I think let's go with your Notre Dame guy.
Jack Kaiser it is. All right. 162 for the Jets.
Give me 1 second because my page. Oh, here we go. Okay. Okay.
You hear that, Donald? That he's
Yeah. Sounds like you're breaking up, brother.
I don't know what's going
Can
on.
you guys hear me now?
Now we can hear you. And now it's
Cutting it out, bro.
Okay. Yeah, I gotta clear my pages. Wide receiver room, please.
okay.
Oof. Okay. How about tight end? Ooh, I like me some Mitchell Evans. I also like. Did anybody do Brenningstool, Alex? Because I remember
Did Brenning Stool. He's a better pass catcher than he is a blocker. He's thin as a blocker.
I quite like bringing Stu. I think he's an interesting option.
Because I mentioned we already did safety, we already attacked defensive line.
And you also got Howes. If you want a blocker.
Linebacker, don't need to attack that. Give me Brenningstool.
Jake Brenning Stool it is.
We could just sign a tight end for blocking purposes.
186.
Let's look at a wide receiver.
I thought you were going to say Kyle McCord.
No. Okay. Then we got. Let me see what best player available looks like. I'm curious. Alex, no, Ty Robinson wasn't there. I really, really like Oladipo.
Yeah.
It's not a bad shout, man.
But Cam Jackson was surprisingly really good at the Senior Bowl. I'm just going to look at our defensive line depth. I'm going to use the phone because
Remember, TJ Sanders was taken.
No, I know. But if the Jets don't sign a defensive lineman, obviously they have yet to. Let's see. Just want to pull up the ESPN one because maybe that's a little more updated. I'm just imagining it because Jermaine Johnson's hurt. Will McDonald would start. I like the idea. This is tough because we have Quinn, and this is 4-3. You have Quinn Williams. You have Jermaine Johnson, who's coming back off injury. Doubt he's going to start immediately. Maybe I'm wrong. Will McDonald on the opposite side. You maybe have TJ Sanders up the middle. Maybe the Jets sign another defensive tackle against one of those anticipation things. Oh boy. Give me Cameron Jackson.
All right, Cam Jackson it is. And then last pick for the Jets, and then it's all Giants.
Okie dokie. I would like to double up on wide receiver, see what we got. And these are all guys I've never even heard of. But that's okay. Listen, we gotta draft as many receivers as possible. Theo Weiss. Okay. In and out. I'm just gonna look at his quick scouting report. Of course, my page is being slow. Apologies.
Any of those guys that you saw at the Senior Bowl?
Lane and
Jalen
McCoy.
Lane was, but that's like 7th round.
I mean, at this point.
Yeah, I mean, round 6.
Yeah. Williams was there. Smith was there. So, I mean.
Who did Jalen Lane for our group?
Who did Jalen Lane?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I did him, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Weaknesses, route release and route tree. Strengths, yak ability, body control, special teams, ace, and zone awareness.
Not bad for 6th round.
Yeah, he's a punt returner. So
Jalen Lane.
All right.
Get Xavier Gibson out of here.
All right.
All right.
Who's our special teams ace in terms of kick return?
We haven't signed Amir Smith-Marset back. Which
I
we
assume
probably,
probably
we
going to
probably
do
should.
that.
Probably should do that. Okay. What do we do here? Do we grab? Because again, it's up
What's
in
your
the air.
tight end depth? Theo Johnson and
Bellinger and Chris Manners.
I mean, we could probably upgrade from Manhurst. Although Manhurst is all right as a blocking tight end. I mean, what kind of? I would maybe look at tight end, maybe, or maybe another safety
Okay. Safety.
as depth or corner, whatever you want.
Dante Trader Jr.
Let's see. Out of this list, Longer Beam is a name, and then from safety, Dante Trader Jr.
What's he about, Alex? I'm curious.
I can actually get that for you real quick.
There's Shiloh Sanders. That would that would make Shadur happy.
Do you think we should do that for kicks?
Yeah, because we've already. I mean, at this stage, let's make the Sanders man happy.
Yeah. And then that's that. So we could go.
I swear I just saw Raywan Lane.
I know he's there. Did we choose line? Yeah, we did choose linebacker. Okay.
There's Xavier Truss of Georgia. It's a good school to.
Let's see. Corner. Yeah, that guy from Rutgers was taken.
Marshall, Jason Marshall. Oh, Marshall. Marshall, Florida. I quite like Marshall. I don't think he's that bad. Bit of cornerback depth.
Yeah, I mean, I'll trust your opinion. So Marshall it is?
He's a Florida. I'm a Florida fan. I've always got an affinity at Florida, so do that.
All right. So the Jets got Ted McMillan, Harold Fannin Jr., Josh Connerly, TJ Sanders, Malachi Moore, Jake Briningstool, Cam Jackson, and Jalen Lane. And the New York Football Giants got Shedeur Sanders, Walter Nolan, Marcus Bowe, Cam Scatabo, Kyron Lacey, Jack Kaiser, Shiloh Sanders, and Jason Marshall Jr.
Would we get a draft grade for those?
Only PFF and the mock draft database do those. So this one doesn't. So, yeah,
I think that would be a pretty solid draft for both our teams.
Oh, I would love that draft.
Be a good
Nolan?
draft. I'd be pretty happy with that.
Nolan at 34.
Makes us stronger, bigger.
Jets mess. I mean, I like the B grade. As long as we prioritize offense, if we're not going to sign guys in free agency, A, and B, I want an offensive guy at 7. I don't care if it's Campbell. I don't care if it's Membo. I don't care if it's Tet. I don't care if it's Tyler Warren. Offense. Justin Fields needs some weapons.
Facts.
Your final thoughts, Luca?
Final thoughts. Giants are crushing free agency. Obviously, we got to wait for the results. We also got to wait for who they put at quarterback. It'll be very interesting to see, but I'm intrigued to see Giant fans' reactions.
So I assume we're going to do a quarterback stream when we finally get a quarterback.
When we get one, yeah, there's going to be a ton to talk about.
Let's do that because it's been such an interesting free agency as well outside of the Giants that it would be kind of fun to look at those as well as the winners and losers. Maybe that's something we could do. It's the next stream, do winners and losers of free agency so far. That could be fun.
All right. We need a ton of wide receivers and tight ends, just as Mess says. But let's hope Aaron Rodgers makes up his mind tomorrow.
Yeah, me too.
And we'll also maybe the Giants sign a guard tomorrow. Obviously, they caught us very off track with the signing of Jevon Holland. That was out of left field.
I know. Now I'm a little bit higher on Shane. I had him on. Dude, I was freaking cooking that guy.
By the fire.
And then now he's come back, and he come back with an A day too. So salute to him.
Let's keep this momentum going.
Yeah, let's go.
Like, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops, video drops. Obviously, we'll have more content now through free agency. And of course, subscribe to the Pinstripe Chronicles and follow Donald's at dstewart267 on Twitter. We appreciate you guys. And, let's hope the Giants carry this momentum and have another great day tomorrow.